Steve Black here with Mayor Chesser, and Mayor Chesser, thanks for taking the time to come by and talk to me. Glad to see you're amongst the living here. Why don't you talk a little bit about, I know you had a little bit of a scare and it worried, I know I was scared when I heard about it, but talk a little bit about your health.
It really didn't scare me. It scared my family more than it did me. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me, but I found out differently. I had a minor heart attack. It wasn't anything severe. Due to the heart being out of rhythm, the top chambers are beating at a different speed than the bottom chambers, so you end up getting dizzy, lightheaded, have sweat, things that go along with a cold.
Right.
That's what I thought I had was a cold, and I just kept getting feeling worse and worse, and I stopped by the doctor one day, and he carried me to the hospital, and Dr. Steerwalt put me in the car and said, "You're not driving," and carried me out there, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
They did an electrical shock that gets everything back in sync, and the doctor told me before he did it, he said, "It'll be a week or two before you feel any better." I felt better within an hour.
Really?
I really
that quick?
felt better within an hour. And but during that process, I had something weird happen, and I don't really understand it. But instead of the normal blips, it looked like McDonald's signs, and he wasn't happy about that at all. So now I have a defibrillator vest and a monitor on that I got to wear for 3 months
Okay.
to make sure that everything's. But I feel good. I still I get tired rather easily. Put a long day in the last couple of days, and
Oh, yeah,
I
I'm
really
sure.
didn't want to get up this morning. But,
Right.
I feel much better. I thought it was just old age getting to me, but it wasn't all old age.
Right.
The last few days, people have asked me. They say, "Well, the stress of the job," and I don't know how much that played in it. You end up being sick with a cold. You have a lot of stress at work. You have other things wrong with you. You're taking medication that normally drags you down
Yeah.
anyway when
Yeah,
you get
it's-
to
that's
taking
made to slow you
antibiotics and
down.
stuff like that. So you just assume that that's
Right.
what it is. And
Right.
it wasn't. So I'm glad to know. And
Well, anything you got to do other than just wear that? I mean, are they,
I
if
can't
it turns
eat
out.
anything good. If
No,
it's good, I can't
okay.
have
That's
it,
that's the way they
That's
usually
the way-
tell you. If it's
Yeah.
good, just stay away from
Oh
it.
boy! And I went to play bingo this morning with the seniors over at the rec center, and what would they have to eat but ham and turkey and chicken?
You
and
could have
dressing?
any of that.
I ate it. I ate it.
if
Don't-
you're
don't
if
tell
Dr.
my wife.
Steerwalt's watching or your wife, you're gonna be in trouble.
No, don't tell them. I ate it anyway, but I didn't eat a lot. And
Well,
I've lost about 15 pounds, and I need
Right.
about 15 more. So
Right.
I'm very thankful, and I'm very appreciative of all the cards, the emails, Facebook. I got just bukus of postings on Facebook.
I know a lot of people
Visitors
is
at the
concerned.
hospital, and even at work, they say, "Oh, now you don't do this. Take it easy." My wife's the same way.
Right.
It's gonna wear off.
Well, I was gonna say, are you planning on milking that for
I'm
a while?
doing it just all I can, but it won't last. It definitely
No.
won't last. A couple of days ago when the storm came through,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was out riding the area, trying to do whatever I could do. Unfortunately, there wasn't much I could do.
Right.
But every department we had, and along with the fire company, with the water company, the gas company, everybody just came together. The radio system was down. We had car-to-car communication. That's about it. We lost all contact with 911. 2 or 3 of the towers were down. Not physically, but the power was out. 2 towers, the generators, the standby generators, did not crank
Okay.
for one reason or other, and it took an hour and a half to get those to running, and then we had radio communications back. But people that were off from work, that had been working that day and gone home, you didn't have to call them. They
Right.
came back. I mean, very few people had to be called.
Right.
Everybody just showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Showed up and said, what I do.
Right.
And that was very encouraging. Police primarily had to close off certain areas like 45th Street around the high school up there, power lines down everywhere.
Yeah, that was a mess.
They were still kids at school. They were, you know, after hours, various practices and what
Right.
have you. They had to be, they were lucky that, talked with one of the coaches and he had like 20-something kids that he had
Right.
to get, you know, into a safe space, and nobody was hurt.
Cool.
I left City Hall just shortly after 4 o'clock, walked from where the door from City Hall to my car, which is probably not 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I got halfway to the car, it hit,
Yeah,
and it was just
it was that
instant.
fast.
And I got soaking wet and hail everywhere,
Mhm.
and of course I didn't want to go back in, but I didn't want to get the car and go
Right.
out on the road either. So I sat there for a few minutes till it passed. It didn't take long.
No.
It was
No.
fast moving. It appears that it came across the ridge somewhere north of City Hall. They are discussion as to whether it was a straight line wind or a tornado.
Right.
I could see,
You saw
Debris.
circulation.
but it wasn't real fast.
Right.
It was just a
Right.
slow circulation of leaves and limbs and stuff like that. There were some trees in the area that were twisted,
Right.
but there were a lot of them that was just laid down.
Well, you know, like a microburst.
Yeah.
Well, a microburst will kind of look like a tornado, but it's just real strong and real fast and a lot of downward
Right.
motion.
I was in a tornado one time in Huntsville that was actually a funnel cloud, but it came and it rode the
Yeah, angled out and hit the ground and did like
horizontally, you know,
had a vortex on the
on
ground.
the ground, and it
Yeah.
tore up tremendous.
Oh yeah,
over
that's bad
there.
news.
We never. I don't know anybody that actually saw a funnel cloud. I don't.
Right.
But the evidence is quite a bit. Cooper Hosiery was probably the first building that was hit, and it did some roof damage on the dye house and some of their inventory space. And they had a truck shop just north of their building, just coming in the back, and it just literally destroyed it.
Tore it up.
Then Gil Graham, who owns a bridge company, don't really know the name of the bridge company, but it's right behind Cooper Hosiery. And he also had purchased the old Robin Lynn Hosiery building as well, and was using it for offices and what have you. He was actually in that building, he and his dad, when it hit. And he got under a desk. His dad was standing by the front door, and I reckon stood there till the roof came off.
Oh my goodness.
But they weren't anybody hurt. Down at their other building, which is directly behind Cooper's, the part of the roof on the backside and a big rolling door, and it's damaged like that. But then when you get to Howell had been hit one time before, you remember, and it got the south side
Yeah.
of Howell. Well, here we go again.
Yeah.
Got the southeast corner of Howell, and it peeled the roof off. Actually did some structural damage into it. Of course, it broke sprinkler lines, and water was going everywhere. Saw that on several buildings.
Yeah.
There was 375 people working at Howell when it hit, and they had nobody hurt.
Yeah.
to
Just a
speak of.
miracle that
The
that
scratches
nobody
and
was
stuff
hurt
like
bad.
Chris Long, who was across from the high school that owns a window company over there, it totally demolished that building.
I saw pictures of that. It looked pretty
The
bad.
cars, the customers that were there out front, the block went over on all their cars. It really messed it up terribly. And I noticed in the paper this morning, he said that he did not have a broken window in his inventory.
Really?
Everything that was
Isn't that
packaged is still
amazing?
there.
That's
And the building's gone.
Well,
So they must be good windows.
that's, yeah, I was gonna say that's a testament to his packing or something.
There were some garbage containers, like these big roll-offs and the tilt
Right.
type garbage containers at Howell, that it literally blew across 45th Street into the soccer field fences and
Wow.
tore those
That's a
down.
lot of weight.
Had a lot of fence damage around the high school.
Mhm.
Of course, your big TV screen. at the
Yeah, I
football
know. That
field,
made me sick. I saw that.
There was just and the gym sustained some damage. When I talked to Cunningham yesterday afternoon, he wasn't sure, but it had a leak. It was
Right.
leaking pretty bad in the gym, so it and then up at the rec center, it must have lifted the roof just a little bit because we've had the roof repaired up there last fall,
Right.
and we've had some heavy rain since then, and we hadn't had a leak until Tuesday
Then it
or
leaked.
Monday. And it leaked in places it never leaked before, so.
It's cracked some seams or
we're-
something.
Yeah, and it may have been
The upward force just kind of
kinda
lifted it
lifting
up.
things up. All the fire stations sustained a little bit of damage. They had roof shingles and what have you.
Right.
Some doors, rolling doors that were
Mhm.
damaged. We have over at the training center, we had just finished building a pole building to store some of our trailers and trucks
Mhm.
and equipment under, and it moved it about 10 degrees,
Right.
which we think we can straighten that back up and concrete it back in place. I
Right.
don't think it really that bad. Let's see, I've got some other notes here. That trailer park just north
Yeah,
of
behind the high
middle
school up
there had a lot of roof damage. It didn't appear to turn any trailers over or
That's
anything
good.
like that. But there were quite a few of the roofs that were peeled
Usually
back.
that front corner gets it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it was kind of down the hill. It's just a lot of blue tarps were
Right.
put on them during that time.
Well, everybody's got power now and all
Yeah,
that.
most
right?
of the power was restored by about 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I know.
that
Our
night.
power went off, and it was back on by 8 o'clock.
We had a meeting with all the departments and various companies, the newspaper yesterday morning about 10 o'clock. At that time, Johnny Evans with the power company said that he had between 200 and 300 people that were still out of power, and he expected to get it back on that day.
Right.
I was out at the house probably 5 hours.
Right.
Let's see.
There wasn't no serious injuries out of any of it.
There was just minor injuries. There was somebody out at the DeSoto State Park that was probably the worst injured, but they said it was not a life-threatening
Right.
injury. And the ones that we had here were just mostly cuts and bruises and
Mhm.
shock.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
kind of wandering around, what I do.
Yeah.
My car's under this pile of blocks over here, and you know.
Hmm.
There were a lot of people coming to the school trying to get their kids that were
Right,
there
that was after
school,
hours.
and of course they couldn't get in
Couldn't get
because
to
the
it.
power lines were everywhere,
Hmm.
and so that and the communications being such that it was that we couldn't communicate with everybody at one
Right.
time. There was none of the kids injured. Everybody
Right.
was safe.
Right.
We knew it, but the parents
They didn't know it.
they didn't
Yeah,
know
and
it.
that's
and they come
torture.
up, they want to get in. Well, just
Yeah.
calm down there. Okay,
Mhm.
we're gonna put them on a bus, move them up to the middle
Right.
school, and
Get them away from the
Get 'em away.
damaged area. And
they had they were gonna move them to the front of the, I guess where you'd say the principal's offices were,
Mhm.
in the main office there
Right.
at the high school. But when the building across the street got demolished, it broke a big gas line, and you could smell gas all over there.
yeah,
So they moved them as far away from that as
Right.
they could,
right.
and then they got a bus to come in and take them
Right.
up to the middle school.
Well, I know my wife works at Howell, and she actually works at Park Central, which did not get hit. That's right beside the building
Right.
that did get hit, and she left within, I'd say within 10 minutes from the time she left. When she left, she had to pull off the road down past Cooper Hosier because she couldn't see where to go, and she sat there for a little bit, and then once it kind of went through, her not knowing that anything had happened, she heads on home. Well, I'm at home and I can't get in touch with her, and a friend of mine that works at 911 said, there's a building down at Howell, and it
Yeah.
scared me to death. So I get in the car going down there.
Their phone systems were out too.
Yeah, well, Verizon didn't work. You couldn't
No.
call. You could text, but you couldn't call. But anyway, she was okay, and
We were lucky.
Yeah.
We take things for granted on
mhm.
a day-to-day basis. We take the world we live in for granted.
Yeah,
There's just so much that we don't show our thanks for.
right.
And when something like this happens, it causes you to step back and take a little bit different look. We're very thankful that no one was killed
Right.
or seriously injured. The other stuff is material. It's not going to last anyway.
That's right.
We got to look out at what's important. And I think it was a good example to our employees. Our employees were a good example to everybody.
Yeah.
They were concerned with the people. We were not concerned with buildings and everything
Right.
else.
Yeah,
Your
that's all
first
stuff that can be
concern is with
replaced.
the
That's-
people. And
Well, the
the more
city.
that we can trust in God,
That's right.
this just shows us that we don't have control over things.
That's right.
I mean, we may think we do, but we don't.
No, we
And
don't.
God's in control, and we question why things happen as they happen, but we don't know.
Right.
One day we will, but we don't. And I think the only hope, of course, this has got nothing to do with a storm, but the only hope that we have in this country, in this community, in this state, is hope in God.
Well,
And if
that's
we will
right.
turn to God and we
That's
start
right.
giving Him the glory and the honor and the praise that He deserves, I think He'll do just like He did with Nineveh. He'll say,
That's
you
right.
repent. And
Yeah, exactly. Well, and two, that's very good. I'm glad you said that. I was going to say, preach it, brother, when you was going there. That's very good, and I am glad you said that because, a lot of times I'm online a lot. I have to upload a lot of videos, so I'm constantly seeing all these news reports and stuff from around the world, and it's depressing. I mean, when you watch what's going on in our nation, it's depressing because I feel like it's so far away from what we're supposed to be. And at times, if you see that enough, it makes you start thinking that it's lost, that it's gone. But then, I'm not saying I wish that storm had never come through, and this is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is when something like this happens, it gives me hope because I see how the city came together in this,
You see
how
the
they
good
worked
side
for
of
it.
people.
Yes, and that gives me hope. I mean, to see that that there are still good people out there. There are still people that are selfless. That before they care about themselves, they care about somebody else, and that's what makes this country strong. That's what's made this country strong.
we live in a special area,
That's right.
and we are blessed to do so. We have all kind of resources. We have good people.
Yeah,
We have lots of churches.
that's right.
My wife and I have been visiting a different church just about every Sunday. We go to the First Methodist early service, and then we go to some other service after it,
Right.
and want to eventually get to every church in the community. And I can honestly say that my heart has been lifted because we haven't been to one yet that we didn't get something out of it.
Right.
That it was
Right.
enjoyable
Mhm.
and not just meeting people that you hadn't seen in a
Mhm.
long time, but the service is good.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit different, but they're all worshiping God.
Shows you how big God is,
That's
don't
right.
it?
And you don't find that
Mm-mm.
in Birmingham.
No, that's
in
right.
Huntsville. You find pockets of it,
Yeah,
but we've got that all over our community.
that's right.
And I think that's one of our great blessings.
Right.
And we need to take advantage of it.
That's
We
absolutely.
need to encourage people, especially newcomers to our town, to visit the churches and find a place where they feel comfortable, where
That's
they
right.
belong. And
Well, that's what knits a community together.
yeah, and I think that would do more. I mean, we politicians can stand up here and say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, but without God's help, we don't do nothing.
No, that's it. That's it. We can talk, but we can't
That's
do.
right. Can't do it.
Well, Mayor Chester, I appreciate you coming in and taking the time to talk to me and to inform the people. And before you go, I was going to ask you, Doctor didn't say anything about meanness playing a part into what was wrong with you.
He
or
said I was a
anything.
big and humble person.
We better go on that. Thanks.